Good day, my friends. Let me ask you a question. Have you ever had a thought so negative it paralyzed your progress? It told you you're not good enough, not smart enough, not ready enough. Well, here's the good news. That voice is a lie. And today, I'm going to teach you how to silence it and transform your mindset from a battlefield to a victory ground. I'm not just talking motivation, I'm talking about transformation, spiritual, mental, and financial. And that starts with removing negative thoughts. Let's walk through 4 BOS level principles to do just that. Your mind is not just a storage unit for random thoughts. It is the engine room of your destiny. Everything in your life, your finances, your relationships, your health, your success is a reflection of your thoughts. That's why the first and most powerful step in removing negative thoughts is to renew your mind daily. Not once, not occasionally, but every single day. This is not a one-time event. It is a lifestyle. You don't shower once and expect to stay clean forever. You don't eat one meal and expect to never be hungry again. So why would you expect one motivational quote, one church sermon, or one YouTube video to keep your mind right for life? You have to be intentional about what goes into your mind, because what goes in will eventually come out. Most people don't even realize that their daily thinking is sabotaging their future. They've allowed the news, gossip, social media, and other people's opinions to become the programming software for their brain. And then they wonder why they feel stuck, overwhelmed, or afraid. The truth is, you can't fill your mind with trash and expect to produce treasure. You can't sow seeds of doubt and expect a harvest of confidence. If you're going to live at a high level, you need high level thinking. And that starts with renewing your mind. Renewing your mind means you make a daily decision to align your thoughts with truth, not just facts, truth. Because facts will tell you that you're broke, that you're sick, that you're too old, too young, too late, too far behind. But truth says you are more than a conqueror. Truth says you are the head and not the tail. Truth says greater is he that is in you than he that is in the world. And truth always trumps facts. So what does this look like practically? First, it starts in the morning. Before you check your phone, before you scroll social media, before you even brush your teeth, you need to program your mind for victory. Wake up with gratitude. Thank God for the day. Begin with affirmations that reinforce who you are, not who the world says you are. Say things like, I am focused, I am favored, I am faithful, I am fruitful. You don't wait until you feel like it, you say it until you believe it. Because here's the secret, your brain believes your voice more than it believes anybody else's. When you speak life over yourself, you break the power of negative thoughts before they even take root. Now, some people will say, well, that sounds like hype. That sounds like positive thinking. But this isn't just motivation. It's mental warfare. You're either winning the battle in your mind or you're losing it. And every day, life is trying to pull you back into fear, back into scarcity, back into limitation. That's why renewing your mind is not a feel-good activity. It's a survival skill. But it's also about what you consume. If you're listening to music, podcasts, and conversations that constantly affirm defeat, heartbreak, violence, drama, and foolishness, don't be surprised when your thoughts start reflecting that same chaos. You've got to guard your mind like it's a vault. You've got to protect your peace like it's $1 million asset, because it is. Turn off the noise that steals your power. Replace it with wisdom. Listen to messages that inspire you. Read books that challenge your thinking. Surround yourself with people who speak life, who push you higher, who believe in your potential even when you forget it. And renewing your mind is also about discipline. You don't wait until the storm hits to build a strong foundation. You renew your mind in the good times so you're ready when the bad times come, because life will test you. People will hurt you. Plans will fall apart. But if your mind is rooted in truth, you'll bend but not break. You'll stumble but not stay down. And while everyone else is panicking, you'll be positioning yourself for purpose. Let me tell you something. Success is not the result of luck. It's the result of alignment. And the first thing that has to align is your mind. When your thoughts line up with your purpose, your actions begin to reflect your calling. You start making bold moves, taking smart risks, walking in confidence, refusing to settle, and showing up like the person you were created to be. All because you've trained your mind to think like a king instead of a victim. This is not about arrogance. This is about authority. You've been given dominion over your thoughts. So stop letting fear set the thermostat for your life. Stop letting worry write your future. You were not created to live in doubt. You were created to dominate. And that begins in the 6 inches between your ears. Renew your mind every single day, because the person you're becoming is shaped by the thoughts you're entertaining. And when you start thinking higher, you start living higher. When you renew your mind, you rewire your results. And when your mind is free, your destiny is inevitable. You've got the power. Use it daily. Most people are waiting to feel like doing something before they do it. They sit around hoping for inspiration, praying for motivation, expecting some divine lightning bolt of energy to strike them before they get started. But here's the hard truth. Emotion is a terrible driver. It's unpredictable. It's inconsistent. One day you're up, the next day you're down. If you let emotion lead, you'll end up living a life ruled by how you feel instead of what you know. And that's a dangerous way to live, because feelings lie. Feelings will tell you it's not the right time. Feelings will whisper that you're not good enough. Feelings will magnify your fears and minimize your faith. So what do you do when you don't feel like showing up? You show up anyway. You don't wait on a feeling. You take action. You replace emotion with motion. The key to breaking negative thoughts is not trying to feel better. It's about moving forward. Because movement creates momentum, and momentum silences doubt. See, there's a law in physics. Objects in motion stay in motion. And that's not just science, that's scripture in action. Faith without works is dead. You can believe all you want, but if you don't move, nothing changes. The breakthrough doesn't come to the thinker. It comes to the mover. Too many people are sitting on dreams, sitting on talents, sitting on callings because they're waiting to feel ready. But let me tell you something. Ready is a lie. If you wait until you're ready, you'll still be waiting a decade from now. God doesn't call the ready. He equips the obedient. You move and the clarity comes after. You act and the confidence follows. You don't overcome fear by fighting it with feelings. You overcome fear by doing the thing you're afraid of. When David ran toward Goliath, he didn't wait to feel brave. He ran because he knew who was backing him up. That's motion. That's movement in the direction of faith. And when you act in faith, your brain has no choice but to adjust. It starts rewiring your belief system, not based on how you feel, but on what you've done. That's why action is one of the most powerful antidotes to anxiety and negativity, because action sends a message to your brain, I'm in control now. Every time you take a step, even a small one, you take back ground that the enemy of your mind tried to occupy. And listen, I'm not talking about huge leaps. I'm talking about consistent steps, small, intentional actions every single day that move you in the direction of your goals, your healing, your breakthrough. Write one page, make one phone call, do one push-up, forgive one person, speak one affirmation, build one habit. It's not about speed. It's about direction. Because when you move forward in alignment with your purpose, you change your atmosphere. You might not feel powerful when you start, but power is attracted to progress. Most people are stuck not because they don't have the potential, but because they've made an idol out of their emotions. They train themselves to obey their feelings like commands. I don't feel like working out, so they skip it. I don't feel like making that sales call, so they miss the opportunity. I don't feel like forgiving, so they carry the weight, and they repeat the cycle for years, wondering why nothing changes. Here's the reality. You will never break that cycle until you decide that your emotions are not your boss. You are. And the moment you choose motion over emotion, you start operating like the CEO of your destiny. You see, motion changes your identity. You stop seeing yourself as the person who tries and start seeing yourself as the person who executes. Confidence doesn't come from thinking positive thoughts. It comes from keeping promises to yourself. And every time you move, you're proving to your mind that you are trustworthy, that you are capable, that you are serious. You stop negotiating with fear. You stop entertaining excuses. You stop playing small. You start showing up with a new energy, a new conviction, a new authority, not because the circumstances changed, but because you did. That's how winners think. They don't make decisions based on mood. They make decisions based on mission. When your mission is clear, your motion is automatic. You get up even when you're tired. You speak even when your voice shakes. You build even when the resources are low, because you're not moved by what you feel, you're moved by what you believe. And when you adopt this principle, when you live it out, when you let it soak into your bones, your whole life begins to shift. You're no longer a slave to procrastination. You're no longer trapped by overthinking. You don't wait on the world to change. You change it by moving first. Your business starts growing, your relationships get stronger, your health improves, your income increases. Why? Because motion multiplies results. Simple, but it's not always easy. There will be days where you still feel low. There will be moments where the weight of life tries to pull you back into paralysis. But that's when you go back to the principle. You tell yourself, I don't have to feel like it to do it. You get up, you move, you speak, you build, you lead, and as you do, you'll look back and realize that the storm, not because your emotions change, but because you did the work anyway. Motion is the proof of faith, and when you move, heaven moves with you. The greatest battle you will ever fight isn't in your bank account, your business, or even your body. It's in your mind. And at the center of that battle is the story you keep telling yourself. Every human being is a storyteller, whether they realize it or not. From the moment you wake up to the moment you fall asleep, your brain is narrating your life. It's putting meaning to every event, every rejection, every delay, every mistake. But here's the key. The meaning you assign determines the direction of your life. And if you don't learn to reframe the narrative, you'll stay stuck in a story that was never written for you. Most people are not trapped by their circumstances. They're trapped by their interpretation of those circumstances. Two people can go through the same experience and come out with totally different outcomes. One person says, that failure ruined me. Another says, that failure made me. Same event, different story. It's not the event that holds power, it's the meaning. So when you learn to reframe the narrative, you take back your authority. Is the redemption, you stop seeing yourself as a victim of your past and start showing up as the author of your future. Let me be clear, reframing the narrative isn't about denying the pain or pretending everything's perfect. This isn't fake positivity. This is faith perspective. It's the ability to say, yes, this hurt me, but it won't define me. It's looking at your scars and saying, this is where I bled, but it's also where I healed. It's standing in the ashes of your worst day and declaring, this is not how the story ends. That's power. That's spiritual maturity. That's ownership. Some of you have been telling the same disempowering story for years. I'm just not good with money. Every relationship I get into falls apart. I always mess things up. And what happens? Your life starts to reflect the script you've been rehearsing. You self-sabotage, you shrink, you settle. Why? Because your brain is wired to prove your story right. If you tell yourself you're broken, you'll find a way to live broke. And if you tell yourself you're blessed, you'll start walking like someone who expects favor. The story you speak is the story you live. And let's get real, some of those stories didn't even start with you. They were passed down from your parents, your environment, your trauma, your culture. You inherited a script that says people like you don't succeed, that your dreams are too big, that you should be realistic, that wealth isn't for you, that happiness is temporary. But just because you were handed the script doesn't mean you have to keep reading from it. You can flip the page, you can edit the chapter, you can write a new ending. That's the beauty of reframing. You become the storyteller, not the character waiting to see what happens next. Let me ask you a question. What would happen if you looked at your life through the lens of purpose instead of pain? What if the thing that nearly broke you actually built you? What if the delay wasn't a denial, but a divine detour to prepare you for greater? What if the closed door was God's protection, not punishment? When you start thinking like that, you unlock peace, power, and potential. You begin to see that even your mess even your failure has favor hidden in it. Reframing the narrative also means recognizing that your past is a chapter, not the whole book. Some of you are living like the worst day of your life is the final word, but it's not. That heartbreak, that bankruptcy, that mistake, that loss, it was real, but it was not the totality of who you are. You are not the story of your lowest moment. You are the story of your response, your bounce back, your resilience. That's what matters. You don't get to control everything that happens to you, but you do get to control how you tell the story, and how you tell it will determine how you live it. When you start reframing your story through a faith perspective, your language changes. You stop saying, why me, and start asking, what's the lesson? You stop complaining and start commanding. You stop shrinking and start stretching. And as you do, you begin to rise. Not because life got easier, but because you got clearer. You begin to attract different opportunities, different relationships, different results. Not because something magical happened, but because the story you told yourself shifted the way you show up in the world. This is what champions do. This is what kingdom-minded leaders do. They don't deny the battle. They redefine it. They say, that wasn't failure. That was feedback. They say, that wasn't a rejection. That was a redirection. They say, I didn't lose. I learned. And the moment you start talking like that, the atmosphere around you begins to respond. People sense the shift. Doors begin to open, solutions start appearing. Why? Because your spirit is no longer aligned with defeat. It's aligned with destiny. So if you want to change your life, change your story. Stop rehearsing the pain and start releasing the power. Stop telling yourself you're stuck and start declaring that you're growing. Stop looking at the facts and start standing on the truth. The narrative is yours. The pen is in your hand, and the next chapter, it's going to be your best yet. There comes a time in life when you've got to stop asking for permission to be who God already created you to be. There comes a moment when comfort becomes a cage and routine becomes a prison. That moment is your wake-up call to reconnect with your calling, because deep down you already know it's not that you lack potential. It's not that you're incapable. It's that somewhere along the way you got disconnected from your divine assignment. You forgot why you started. You forgot who you were. The noise of life drowned out the whisper of purpose. But purpose doesn't die. Calling doesn't expire. It might get buried under disappointment, fear, bills, pressure, or practicality, but it never goes away. That's why even in your quiet moments, you still feel the tug, that pull, that restlessness, that unshakable sense that you were meant for more. That's not ambition. That's not ego. That's your calling trying to get your attention again. You were not created to simply survive through the week, live for the weekend, and die with your dreams still in you. You were created on purpose, for a purpose, by a creator who put something in you that this world needs. And until you reconnect with that assignment, you'll always feel a void, no matter how much money you make, how many followers you have, or how successful you look on the outside. Because fulfillment isn't found in what you do, it's found in who you're becoming. And you can't become who you were born to be unless you align your life with your calling. But let's get honest. Life has a way of making us forget. We get distracted by responsibility. We get wounded by betrayal. We get tired from the hustle. And somewhere in between, the job, the bills, the relationships, and the expectations, we lose sight of the original vision. That vision that once lit us on fire, that dream that kept us up at night in the best way, that idea that made our hearts race and our spirits soar. And before we know it, we've traded our calling for a career, our passion for a paycheck, our purpose for approval. That's not living, that's existing. And you were made for more than that. You were made to create, to lead, to influence, to build, to serve, to transform. You were made to partner with heaven and bring light into the dark places of this world. Your calling is not just about you. It's about who's waiting on the other side of your obedience. See, when you reconnect with your calling, your whole life changes. You stop living by default and start living by design. You stop chasing what's easy and start pursuing what's eternal. You stop asking what's safe and start asking what's significant. And when you live like that, your energy shifts, your priorities shift, your relationships shift, because alignment breeds acceleration. When you're walking in your calling, doors open. Resources appear, ideas flow, people take notice. Why? Because you're operating in your divine lane, and when you run in your lane, you don't have to compete, you just win. But let me warn you, reconnecting with your calling isn't always comfortable. In fact, it rarely is. It requires you to confront your fear. to disappoint the people who want you to stay small, to let go of some things that are good so you can reach for what is God. You might have to step out of the boat. You might have to leave behind security. You might have to walk through the wilderness. But hear me, the cost of ignoring your calling is far greater than the cost of pursuing it. And don't make the mistake of thinking calling means pulpit or platform. Your calling might be in the classroom, it might be in your kitchen, it might be in a boardroom, a studio, a hospital, or a podcast. Wherever God has assigned you, that is your mission field. Don't diminish it. Don't delay it. And don't you dare disqualify yourself. Because God doesn't call the qualified, he qualifies the called. If he gave you the vision, he's already provided the provision, but you'll never see it until you move. Reconnecting with your calling means asking yourself the hard questions. What sets my soul on fire? What breaks my heart in a way that moves me to act? What am I willing to do even if no one claps for me? What legacy am I leaving behind? If today were my last day, would I be proud of how I lived it? This isn't about height. This is about heaven's assignment. Your calling is the intersection of your gifts, your pain, and your faith. It's what you were put on this planet to release. And every second you spend ignoring it is a second the world goes without what only you can give. So don't let fear write your story. Don't let failure stop your pursuit. Don't let comfort steal your calling. Reconnect with it, reignite it, recommit to it, speak it out loud again, write it down again, pray over it again. Take one step toward it today. Because once you remember who you are, you'll never settle for less than what you're called to be. One thought. That's all it takes to shift your atmosphere. You want to remove negative thoughts? Then replace them with purpose, power, and passion. You are not a prisoner of your mind. You are the master of it. And when your mind is renewed, your life is reborn. Now go out there and walk like a boss, because obstacles simply submit when your mind is made up.